Donald Trump held a press conference today where he blamed the fatal plane accident last night that killed 67 people on everything from dwarfism to DEI to Pete Buttigieg. With absolutely no evidence, and as bodies are still being pulled from the river, Donald Trump stood in the press room and blamed DEI for a plane crash. He starts the press conference by insulting people with disabilities, everything from missing extremities to dwarfism. His claim is that Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg changed FAA rules and laws to actively target people with disabilities to hire them. And he rattles off a list of all the disabilities that he thinks makes people incompetent in their jobs.
Where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway.
I don't know what he has against people with dwarfism. That's a really new, weird, and specific one. It's like he's running out of people to discriminate against, and it's awful. This government executive article states that FAA employees with disabilities targeted by Trump's anti-DEI push. Despite current policy, the FAA during Trump's first administration actively sought to recruit workers with disabilities. When he says that these DEI rules are a Biden or a Pete Buttigieg rule, he's just lying. These rules existed under him, and not only did they exist, his administration pushed to hire people with disabilities. Additionally, during Trump's first term, FAA launched a pilot program in 2019 to enroll up to 20 people with disabilities in training for careers in air traffic operations. The candidates in this program will receive the same rigorous consideration in terms of aptitude, medical, and security qualifications as those individuals considered for a standard public opening for air traffic controller jobs. An FAA webpage with information about careers and internships with people with disabilities and its diversity and inclusion site currently appear to have been taken down. Went on to bash Pete Buttigieg more as if he's running the Department of Transportation right now. But newsflash, Donald, you are the president. And your boy, Sean Duffy from Real World Road Rules, is actually the Secretary of Transportation. It was confirmed by the Senate 77 to 22 and vowed to improve travel safety. So good job, Sean.
Reason the FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation is government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it. 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity. So
Pete Buttigieg responded to Trump's BS. Despicable. As families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, grew air traffic control, and had zero commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. President Trump now oversees the military and the FAA. One of his first acts was to fire and suspend some of the key personnel who helped keep our skies safe. Time for the president to show actual leadership and explain what he will do to prevent this from happening again. Pete Buttigieg is absolutely right, and he doesn't deserve any of the blame for this. Donald Trump is president now. And remember all those executive orders he signed on his first 2 days? Well, one of those was a hiring freeze, so they have not been hiring air traffic controllers. This is from the Economic Times. Washington plane crash. Trump gutted key aviation safety committee for DEI rollback days before deadly mid-air collision. According to a report in the Mirror, U.S. President Donald Trump has come under fire for implementing a dangerous federal hiring freeze, dismissing the heads of the Transportation Security Administration and Coast Guard, and dismantling a crucial aviation safety advisory committee. This all occurred just days before a fatal collision between an American Airlines plane and a military helicopter. The article goes on to talk about how he fired the entire board of the Aviation Security Advisory Committee. They received a memo saying that the department is eliminating the membership of all advisory committees as part of a commitment to eliminating the misuse of resources and ensuring that DHS activities prioritize our national security. I thought this part was interesting. Just hours prior to the Washington, D.C. crash, Thomas Schaller, a political science professor at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to issue a warning about the hiring freeze. He stated, "An FAA employee I know confirms agency already lacks sufficient air traffic controllers. The so-called buyouts and other attacks on federal employees won't help. Remember that fact when the flight delays, crashes, commence, and Trumpers start falsely blaming DEI or Biden." The buyouts he's talking about is the memo that Trump sent to all federal employees that they need to show up back to the office or lose their jobs, or they can quit and be paid for 8 months. But that's a lie. Like I said before, he's not going to pay you. He's just trying to get you to leave. Obviously, I'm not a flight crash expert and I don't have the evidence in front of me, but there's absolutely no way this was caused by DEI, for one. And it might not have been because of Trump dismantling the entire United States government in front of our eyes, but it could be. And he needs to understand that, and he won't. Elon Musk is also a part of this. He was basically threatening the FAA administrator because the FAA has been investigating SpaceX, and the administrator quit the day of the election or the day of the inauguration because now Elon Musk is in charge. They froze all hiring, so there's no new air traffic controllers being hired, and all the leadership positions that take care of safety and the Coast Guard and the FAA, all of it gone with no replacements. That seems crazy. That's reckless. And this plane crash might not be a direct result of that, but more things are going to happen. Bad things are going to follow when you dismantle the entire government, because despite what everybody thinks, it's not all just waste. Like, a lot of it is genuinely out there to keep us safe. Trump is not interested in distinguishing between the two. It's not about eliminating waste. It's about white supremacy. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was also at this press conference, speaking of white supremacy, because the military was involved in this crash. And his whole statement was basically like, DEI has to end. We have to end DEI because that's what this is all about.
We will have the best and brightest in every position possible. As you said in your inaugural, it is colorblind and merit-based. The best leaders possible, whether it's flying Blackhawks and flying airplanes, leading platoons, or in government. The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest, whether it's in our air traffic control, or whether it's in our generals, or whether it's throughout government. So thank you for your leadership and courage on that, sir.
DEI to these people means Black people. It means trans people. It means women. They want only white men in all of these positions, which the pilots, by the way, were white men, and they didn't deserve what happened to them. Remember when the East Palestine train derailment happened and Republicans screamed for years that it was Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg who caused this, that it was completely their fault. We need to carry that same energy. Trump is in charge of the government now, and he did fire all the people who are in charge of keeping our skies safe. So, of course, I'm gonna blame him. JD Vance came in and added more white supremacist talking points to it, basically saying that the fact that DEI even exists in the workplace puts stress on the hardworking people there who are there based on merit.
Something the president said that I think bears reemphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think that is a core part of what President Trump is going to bring and has already brought to Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control, and we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry. Thank you, Mr. President.
White men are not missing out on jobs because they're white men. Like, literally, we have the whitest administration in human history now, and they all failed upwards. JD Vance is not qualified for the job he had before vice president. He was not qualified to be a senator, and now he's the vice president. Hegseth was a weekend Fox News host who was a combat veteran, sure, and he led a platoon, but he does not have any experience in the military beyond that. He does not have experience leading millions of people and a $1 trillion budget. The entire Trump administration is DEI hires, and they don't understand that because DEI to them is black people. What JD Vance is saying there is having black people working in the same place as white people is hard for the white people. That is what he is saying. It is white supremacist talking points, and they want to resegregate the United States. Like, they're being very obvious about it with every action that they have taken since this administration took over. Trump was then asked by a journalist how he could assume that this is just a DEI issue when he has no evidence and the investigation hadn't even started yet.
Yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people. You mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference?
Does it comfort their families?
They
to
are
hear you
a group of
blaming
people
DEI
that have
policies?
lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question.
But are you
I'm
blaming-
surprised coming from
Are
you.
you blaming
I'm pretty sure that was Caitlin Collins asking the question. She's a CNN anchor, and Trump and her have like a weird relationship where she does call him out sometimes, but she also definitely is a Trump apologist half the time. He's like, that was not a very smart question coming from you. Like, dude, she's asking you why you think you can just place blame on DEI when the investigation is literally just underway. He was asked the same question, basically the same question from another reporter, like, why do you think this is DEI? And Trump just goes, because I have common sense. I imagine they are going to be playing that on a loop on all of the Fox News and News Nation and OAN and all that garbage as some heroic gotcha to the media. But yeah, so that's what's happening with that. Trump is blaming dwarfism. He's blaming DEI. He's blaming Pete Buttigieg. He's blaming every single person besides himself. He is saying that everyone involved is incompetent and we need to get rid of them all. Pilots are DEI hires. The military personnel are DEI hires. The air traffic controllers are DEI hires. He complained that they were at the same height in the sky and that someone should figure that out. Like, this man has no idea how anything works, let alone flight patterns. And I don't either, but like, I'm not up in the White House acting like I know everything and that everybody else is an incompetent DEI hire. This is literally insane. They are using a extremely horrific tragedy to politicize and further push their white supremacy ideology. And that is messed up. That is Trumpism in a nutshell. That is what will be happening from here on out. Anytime there is a tragedy, expect him to blame Biden, expect him to blame black people, expect him to blame desegregation, basically. 67 people are dead. And it's seeming as more information comes out, more and more likely that it's because of Donald Trump's hiring freeze and firing of all the leadership positions. And again, that could have literally nothing to do with it, but when you fire everyone involved in air safety and then there's a tragic accident that then you blame on woke and DEI, people are going to push back and ask questions, Mr. President.